when it started or how it started, there are some obvious possibilities. Maybe the Buddha had this in mind. After all, the Buddha talked about how all people were welcome to his Sangha. He talked about the effects of greed and hatred and delusion upon society. He was compassionate, he was liberal, he was open. So, I mean, that's an obvious possibility. The first great Buddhist monarch, King Ashoka, famous for his appreciation of all the different religious traditions that were active in India at the time, and paying homage to all holy people, and social services, caring for animals and old people, planting trees. I mean, Ashoka was famous for all of that. The Bodhisattva ethic of vowing to help and relieve suffering of all beings, and the great teachings of interdependence, loving kindness. So the Buddhist tradition is hard to imagine without social engagement.
Chris had asked me to speak about what he calls the canonical roots of engaged Buddhism. And so I'll be referring to quite a few passages in the Pali Canon. First, as Buddhism comes to the West, the way it impresses most Westerners, Americans, who approach Buddhism is to see it as a means to a kind of world-renouncing liberation, a state of mysterious, incomprehensible enlightenment, a religion that promotes detachment, intensive meditation, and a kind of personalized inward liberation.
Our modern conception of religion, the one that we tend to take for granted and sort of see things through, is largely a product of the Protestant Revolution, and it doesn't really doesn't describe very well what pre-modern or non-modern cultures, the way that they understood what we call their religion. And this certainly includes, of course, the time of the Buddha.
So in May of 2000, this group, the Peace Council, was invited to Jerusalem. One of our members is a rabbi in Jerusalem. And things were fairly quiet at that time in that area. It was before the last Intifada broke out. And so this group had a number of Buddhist leaders that were part of it. Mahaghosananda, a very important engaged Buddhist leader from Cambodia, was there with an attendant. Also Geshe Sopa, an important Tibetan Buddhist scholar and leader, was there with an attendant. And at the time, her name was Chatsumarn Kabul Singh. So these were the Buddhist leaders present. And the practice of this group, the Peace Council, is when we are invited to visit a place that is in conflict, to listen, just listen. Listen to the stories of the people who live there, who are going through various things. So this is what we did for several days. We just were listening to these stories from Israelis and from Palestinians. And as I'm sure you know, they're very, very terrible, very painful stories.